Oh, that's what.
I am.
Yeah.
Are we live? Almost. Okay.
Forget
Give me the win.
Yeah.
Proved once again, IT really runs everything.
Okay, am I gonna call this? I want to say July, but it's October. Meeting of the Riley County Commission to order, so please everybody join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and I'm used to saying that as well. I'm gonna take a moment to say thanks to City of Riley for being gracious hosts this evening and look forward to hearing an update later. October, it doesn't feel like it, but yeah, here we are. So we'll start off with some public comment this evening. If anybody has any public comment, I guess the podium is up there and we'll start off with that. Anything, Russell?
So Brian's not here yet, but he wanted me to bring up something. He rented about 4 or 5 minutes later. So I don't know. He has the land swap agreement that got him for University Park for the fire station that he was going to present to you. And he asked me to bring it up in public comment. So I don't know if you want to tack it on the.
We can tack it on to the business meeting if we.
Yeah,
So choose.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that when it's signed. Yeah. Thanks for getting that done. That's a intricate process of getting that up and built and operational.
Yep.
Okay,
Take a word.
Okay. good deal. Okay. Anybody else with public comment? Seeing none, we'll close off public comment. We'll move on to commission comments and we'll start with Commissioner McKinley.
Monday afternoon, we had a tour of the containment area at NDAP. Had a briefing by staff before the tour. And various staff showed us through their work areas and explained the work that what goes on in each of the areas. It's a impressive building and the equipment in there is amazing. It's served the country for many years. Tuesday was the bi-weekly update on the EMS building, the architect and contractor. Everything's still moving along well. The CMU work will be done this week and start the stone veneer next week. They're doing the underground work in the ambulance bay now that they're out of there. And then hope to pour that floor by the end of next week. And interior wall framing is going up on the admin side, structural seals on the ambulance station side, and done that and after floors for the steel, the main bays there. Later Tuesday, ribbon cutting and open house for the added bus edition. Had a pretty good crowd of people there. Pretty good people. Good addition. It'll be good to have them all back working in the same place. While it's under construction, they were scattered, some from home, some other places. You know, they kept it going, but it wasn't easy. And then I had some emails and phone calls with residents with questions this week. I complained about hot weather.
Yeah. It could be fall anytime now. Rain dances, fall dances, whatever you can take us. I even walked my truck with the hopes that maybe we get rain and cool it down. Yeah. Good. Okay, moving on.
Okay, well, Monday afternoon, I too went to the NBAC tour on the NBAC. So the tour with that group, grateful to the government to really see their facility. I learned a lot about their operation going forward. Quite a place. very secure. With concrete walls that are like 10 inches thick and the floor out of the house like that. It's quite so. Tuesday, I spent most of the day in meetings at my church, so I have all sorts of things going on there. Wednesday, I attended the military relations committee meeting at the Holiday Inn campus. Guest speaker was Monica Forrest from Valley Hope. Program was founded in Kansas in 1967, and currently there are 5 drug and alcohol rehab facilities across the state that include residential treatment programs, medical detoxification, medication assisted therapy, flexible outpatient services. And she shared how Valley Hope supports our military community and provide function between the items. After luncheon, I attended the Wesley Business Association monthly meeting at the Foundation Event Center. The program was the director of Potawatomi County Economic Development Corporation. Their funding is kind of interesting. I hadn't heard this before, but their funding is through their county commission, 2/3 county pays for it, and 1/3 from private investors. He did report on Scorpius, but is still on hold as they continue to search for investors. And he said nothing has been done there until on the property until something becomes of fruition of the investors. Caterpillar, which is closing there, does not have a timeline in place for closure. But the facility has now been listed for sale. And the county is hoping to keep all the employees in the area. So that, and maybe a whole new facility will be used in the manufacturing stuff. Second presentation was by the very enthusiastic K-State track and field coaches. They moved into the facility at K-State. Now, great plans are going forward for their athletes. That includes some international track meets, all sorts of things.
2 of them won Olympic.
Yeah.
Olympic medals, like Summer Olympics.
And it was really cool because they showed how far the high jump one of the Olympics, how far it was like from here to the end of the room, you jumped, it was just.
Did you give it a try?
Everybody was just amazed how far they actually went. Let's see, Thursday, today I went through all the documents for the evening's meeting and followed up on emails, phone calls, and picked up pies that I had on the phone before Friday, Apple Day, which is coming up on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. They have a parade and a whole lot of festivities and buy slices of pie. The big pie sale is done.
I plan on going.
Yeah.
I do every year.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Well, that's for me. I too, Monday afternoon, attended that tour of InBev. Good to get a briefing on everything that's going on, kind of what their plan is moving forward to become fully operational. Going to be quite the process, is what it sounds like. Toured all the containment labs, the BSL-3, the BSL-4 lab space, some of the other spaces in between. Want to give a shout out to Katie Pulaski and Jason Walker, the community relations team, for setting this all up and then seeing it through. So they're going to be shutting all those tours and stuff off at the end of the year. So we kind of snuck it in there. It's been on my to-do list for a long time and finally got it done. So Tuesday, although I kind of arrived late, I stopped out at the ATA open house, got a tour of the new addition they planned and finally got constructed. Did an excellent job of designing and laying that new space out. Kind of definitely work for them in the present, and then kind of got some plans for what that may look like for the future as well. So they did a really good job on that. I was really happy to hear too that they got 2 new buses that were on display there. Been working for almost 2 years to get those, so they really needed them. So I was glad to hear that. That's some really good food, beverages, and they had some of their fleet kind of staged outside, so everything can be viewed as well, including the 2 new buses. So they're working on some other things in line with that, as I think they've explained to us, so I won't get into too much depth on that, but. Tuesday evening, I actually watched the vice presidential debate at my friend's house. This is something I don't do very often, and it's been a long time since I've watched one, but I have to pleasantly say I was surprised. Both candidates did a pretty good job of sticking to the issues and policy questions and not throwing jabs and insults at each other, but was very, very disappointed with the moderators. And they didn't do a good job at all, to be quite honest with you. Made me think that in the future that, maybe they should take that away from the mainstream news and do something different with it. Let the candidates develop something, pick their own moderators and put something different together, because that part's just getting kind of ridiculous. But anyway, just fun to watch, something to do on a Tuesday evening, I guess. Let's see, Wednesday, I listened in on part one of the Council of Foreign Affairs. They're teaming up with the Brookings Initiative to do a series called Elections 24, speaking of elections. Elections 24 issues at stake. It's going to be a series of virtual calls throughout the month of October, aimed at exploring the United States' role in international affairs issues, how that affects voters, and foreign policy issues at stake in this election in November. The combined initiatives aim to bring public attention to consequential policy issues confronting voters and policymakers as we lead up to November 5th. So I think it's going to be kind of interesting to just kind of hear what they have to say. So. As we all know, October is usually a football month. I was talking about this earlier. This year it means baseball, and I think for the first time ever, both of my teams, the Royals and the Braves, made the baseball playoffs this year. Of course, the Braves swept Baltimore in Baltimore, both games. Only giving up one run in the two games. First road playoff shutout, I think, in Kansas City's history. Braves weren't quite as fortunate. They got swept by San Diego. So still got the Royals to look at. I'll put all the Braves stuff away and keep the Royals stuff out. But as mentioned earlier, Monday night is going to be very, very interesting in Kansas City with both the Royals and Chiefs playing on the same night. So Kaufman Sports Complex is going to be a roller for sure. And that's my week in a nutshell. So.
Ready for business, commissioners?
You can do that.
First item ads, I need a motion for tax roll correction.
And I'll make a motion to sign the tax roll corrections presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the tax roll corrections as written. All in favor?
Chair, please sign. Next, commissioners, I need a motion to sign all of the closing documents for the purchase of the Keats Sewer project.
What's the document, sir?
Lots of documents. Chair needs to sign them all.
Okay, I did my hand exercises today, so.
We need, there's a second amendment. This will be everything.
Yeah, how do we get?
There's a couple that are these.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Parker, Deputy County Councilor. So there's three documents before you for signature. The first is the Second Amendment, and all that did was move closing from when it was scheduled September 30th last week to this Friday, so that that also allowed us to sign the other two documents, which are standard documents that we have executed for real estate transactions. And the first of those is the purchaser settlement statement. And the only way that I really write a purchaser settlement statement is it's like a receipt of a restaurant. All it does is it shows you what we paid for. And I checked over the numbers and they're absolutely correct. But because we're a commission, we're a working commission, these things go from you guys. And so we needed to get that signed, and then the other thing is the sales validation question, which we sign everybody that moves property, unless you're signing a deed for, you're putting property into a trust, you sign a sales validation questionnaire. And really, that's intended to collect information about a property transaction that then is fed into the appraisal process. That's really the purpose of it. It's a state law requirement. In the future, one of the things that I'm going to institute, and I did this actually for the University Park, transaction. But, what we'll do is we'll have an authorizing motion that just authorizes all past, if there's a desire. A lot of these things, there's no change to any of the deal whatsoever. It's just title companies, when they issue insurance, they have a lot of paperwork. And since we're getting insurance on this for our title, they wanted us to have a whole bunch of things signed. So sometimes with governing bodies, and maybe a good idea in the future, we'll just have an authorizing resolution that allows the chair or whoever's the chair of that committee, so that we don't have to come back and it's time to get basically the receipt signed. If that makes sense. Any questions? But we will close tomorrow. Everything's there. So,
Yay.
yay. Thank you.
Nothing but day long day.
Have a good side, she's joking.
Yeah.
We are. Close as long as we get a motion.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would make a motion that the board approve the second amendment to the option agreement and final settlement statement and sales validation questionnaire as presented to Charleston and Wilson, escrow agent for the transaction. And authorize the chair of Raleigh County Board of County Commissioners to execute said second amendment, final settlement statement, sales validation questionnaire, and all other documents that may be required by the escrow agent to authorize closing upon the purchase of property under the option agreement.
Second.
I think in the future, you need to make those motions just a little bit longer.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that would be good,
Well,
yeah.
Julie, show me this.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the second amendment to the option agreement and final settlement statement and sales validation questionnaire as presented by Charles and Wilson, escrow agent for the transaction, and authorize the chair of the Raleigh County Board of Commissioners to execute said second amendments, final settlement statement. Let's see, we lost me here. Sales validation questionnaire and all other documents that may be required by the escrow agent to authorize closing upon the purchase of the property under the option agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I would
Then I get to sign all.
Thank you.
You do.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it, get on this a little late with you, what's going on. You please, last.
Thank you, Commissioner, we put it together.
Oh, and thank you to the Shirleys for helping us coordinate things to get it rolling. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Other than that, you count the beginning,
When addition is formed.
and then it goes back and have a tangle back.
Sounds all right.
Well, I'm sure this won't be the last, think about it. There's always something.
See if you're looking forward to something.
Well, there you go. I think the next document, Commissioner, will be a construction contract.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I would be issue an RFP.
Might be here the rest of the night.
We still got a few more documents to sign.
See that stack?
He's got a whole stack left over there.
I think there's one that we all signed. And then only-
It's there, I think we set it up so that we authorize the board chair just to sign the state agricultural riders grant. I guess I just wanted to visit that upon. the board
Could have
chair.
waited until January.
What can I say?
We're almost there. We're almost.
We didn't want to wait.
No,
I thought I'd be signing the property and keys.
yeah, I think it's the final closing numbers has three signatures on it. Page.
Okay, I may not be in the order.
Yes.
But they are all signed.
I have them, that's the big change, that's the only difference was, yep, I had them reduced, because of the motion, the way it was worded. We didn't need to have that released. And so I had to do a new one that is identical to what's in the packet, but it didn't have the signature. It just had.
Oh,
Okay. Sure. Signature.
Next, Commissioner, need a motion on the mobile device reimbursement request.
I move to approve the mobile device reimbursement request.
I would second that.
Then moved in second to approve the mobile device reimbursement request form. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, Commissioner, to approve accounts payable and payroll.
I will make the motion to approve the accounts payroll and. Yeah, payroll and accounts payable.
I'll second.
Been moved in second to approve payroll and accounts payable. All in favor?
All three sign.
Okay.
Commissioners, I have a couple additions to the business meeting. First is a request for proposals. It is for the attorneys for the indigent panel. I need a motion to sign.
Richard, this is a document you've already approved, and it's simply to hang your signatures. This is the same one that I sent out to members of the Riley County Bar Association. We already have one person here actually submitting a proposal, so that's a good sign. I encourage that person to get 5 of their closest friends together.
See. The motion.
One.
The request for the proposals.
Motion to approve the request for proposals for the energy plan.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded. The request for proposals for the Indigent Defense Panel. All in favor?
Aye.
Sign. Okay, fine.
Next, Commissioners, I have in construction agreement for the land swap for University Park for the fire station. Need a motion for it.
We're kind of speeding along here because we're into.
No, Mike was gonna tell us what it's about. Is this
Oh, did you? I'm happy to, very quick, just.
It's the land swap
this land swap for?
for the fire station.
Yeah, Commissioner, all this is just authorizing the transaction.
I would approve the documents for the land swap for the fire station, University Park.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the contract for the land swap for the University Park Fire Station. All in favor?
All of you. Thank you, Commissioner. Do all of you want to attend the Northeast Kansas County Officials Meeting, November 26th, in Osage County? It's a great city of Linden, Kansas. That'd be a Friday, starting at 8 a.m. That's an early wake up time.
I already told Cindy I was going, so.
Oh.
You will, Catherine?
Maybe. I got it, check my. Okay.
Leave about 6 a.m.
Where is?
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes. We're hosting next year.
Catherine, when you decide, just let Cindy know, okay, that we can get you registered.
We're next in line, are we?
Problem. You. Any changes in the minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented in the September 30th meetings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as written from the September 30th meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor? Aye.
And agenda's looking okay, Commissioners? Any items for next week's press conference?
Aye.
Okay, it is past time for Mr. Holmes.
Why don't we, Clancy, So you have more than 5 minutes to discuss this, just wait to the end of the meeting and sure just. Wait till 6:30. Okay. I think the discussion's gonna take more than 5 minutes, I'm assuming.
Depending if you have questions.
Okay. Yeah. Another night game for K-State next week.
Good, at least I'll be able to watch it. Was that late?
Yeah.
That is late. I can watch part of it.
You're gonna fall asleep in the chair, huh?
Now, I don't fall asleep in the chair usually, I just go straight to bed.
I don't like the idea of playing Colorado and Colorado. Very, very well to do that. That's.
This one, I don't think about this.
Tuesday, yeah,
Yeah, it's the same time.
it is, I think that's the last, next week's the last week of it.
That's the last.
Mhm.
It's not, that's.
It'll be the following.
Oh.
First person he's had on that show is, Governor. Yeah, we'll just have to see.
Well, I'm on November 12th,
November 12th.
post-election discussion. That's what he asked for.
Could be interesting, it might not be interesting.
Yeah, I guess.
How much time do you have to?
Full hour.
Isn't it? Is it? Yeah, I didn't know what the new format was.
They want to talk about elections and space and facilities. And I just told Vivian to write up something on elections. I didn't want to bother any of you guys because you're in the midst of elections and pull everybody away from that. And then Amanda's gonna come on there if we need to talk about what we did during the planning retreat and everything that led up to it. Hour seems like a long time, but it's not.
It goes
Yeah,
I never get to everything you've got on the list.
I know. Oh, yeah. I saw your anniversary picture on Facebook there.
Yeah,
Nice hair.
I got my hair cut with the picture.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Thinking I'm gonna have Darnell show me that picture.
Full head of dark hair.
I thought, interesting. There was a time for me to shoot, so.
She always did that after she did it.
Okay. Was gonna be no protest then. Well, happy 50th anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a milestone.
That is.
Well, like that, what's our anniversary? It's 50th anniversary of the Navy net.
Are you excited to marry him anyway?
Got a rocking there?
Yeah, okay. There you go. There you go. Okay, we are at 6:30, and so we'll hear from the mayor, from Riley.
Thanks for the glasses. Okay. These things. If I can get back to them. I don't have a lot to go through. One of the things we have coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend is our fall festival.
Yeah.
We're having, it's all day, there's some runs, walks, we have a parade and cornhole tournament, barbecue competition, a lot of vendors downtown. So we're all really looking forward to that. That's something that we always have a good time at, so. We're very proud of ourselves. We got our lead and copper report completed. A lot of people, we've heard that a lot of people were just going to guess and send it in, and so we actually divided the town up into 10 areas and sent out notifications to 3 at a time, and then we had someone on staff go, if they needed any help at all, we would go help them go through and go into their homes if we're welcome, if we go into houses and complete the lead and copper report. So we got that totally completed and everything's been sent in, so we're pretty happy about that. We've been about a year since we hired a code enforcer. Was something that we thought was necessary here, as well as we've got our municipal court up and going. We haven't had court yet. We had an untimely passing of our potential judge in December, January. So we do have a judge now, but we're still working. We started out pretty slow with our code enforcement, especially to get to any kind of going to any kind of court or anything, but our code enforcer's been working individually with people to try to clean everything up. It's worked pretty well, but it's been about a year, and now we're gonna push a little harder. And because we've had some who just, they know what's going on and they're doing great. There's a lot of people who are doing some great things. Other ones a little bit slower to help. Part of it is, some of it is age related and financially related, and we're trying to find ways to help. We're trying to enlist schools to help with, and other volunteer organizations to help with some of the cleanup of some of our places. That's really about all I have. Did anybody have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess if you want to
Try to go in.
try to do it, yeah. Do it now, right there. It's just Russell's time that you'll.
Good evening, Commissioners, Clancy, Norman Valley County Councilor. You do have, as you know, a fence view scheduled tomorrow. These for those of people either in the audience here at the hall, or those who are actually watching online. Fence view is a process that a lot of commissioners, I think, if they knew it was part of the job, probably wouldn't run. Because it's almost worth it to see the shock on a new commissioner's face when you tell them, oh, we need to schedule a fence view.
Yeah, thanks for waiting 5 years in to shock me.
You're welcome. But it is something that's by statute, you have to do. It dates from, the process really dates back to some of the, maybe even territorial or early stated days. Because we're what's called in Kansas a fence in state. Those with livestock have a legal obligation under state law. And did bring along, just as an example, I mean, this is the statutory scheme for fence view. And it's based on all of these various provisions. That generate a lot of the work that's involved, because it talks about the primary thing is that duty to fence in livestock. And the idea is you fence in livestock so they do not trespass on a neighboring parcel and damage crops. It's for that reason that you cannot have a fence view if you have two adjoining properties, and it always involves what's called a partition fence. And that's just a fence that divides two differently owned parcels of real property. Why would you have a fence view? Well, because sometimes, even though the parties ordinarily, it's the obligation under state statute for the livestock owner to make sure the property is fenced in, but it's also the responsibility is divided evenly to maintain that fence, to put up a partition fence. And that obligation only exists if one side of that partition fence is in pasture and the other side is in crop. And the way the legislature describes it is, in the language of the statute, they have to be used otherwise than in common. And only the legislature can come up with that kind of phrase, because what does that mean? Differently. Couldn't just say differently. You cannot have both sides of the fence cannot be used the same. You can't have two in crop or two in pasture. If you do, there's no fence. Obligation to put up. Obligation to maintain it. If you do have that situation where you are used otherwise, differently, and the parties have a fence in place, well, again, there's equal responsibility. The idea is to maintain that fence. And that's where the fence viewers come in. And all the county commissioners of every county in the state are by statute designated as fence viewers. But as I said, we don't ever tell anybody who's running. And suppress those who are willing to serve. But as fence viewers, you're also entitled to the princely sum. I think it's $4 a piece. And back when these statutes were first enacted, I think that probably was significant. It's a long ways from that now.
Yeah, why didn't inflation catch up with that?
I don't know. It really calls for an investigation.
Yeah, it does.
I think we should champion that. But that's actually one of the things that should be assessed as part of the costs. And it's an embarrassing sum, actually. $4 for having to put it in the back and take a look at it. Because what you have to do is eventually you go out to the site, take a look at it, you decide, is it being maintained well enough under these various standards? Actually, and the primary thing any partition fence has to do is, what can be a fence is not just a fence. It can also be natural terrain can be the fence. You could have enough natural barriers that's enough to act as a fence. A hedge could be a fence if it's good enough. The key is it has to be good enough to turn back livestock. That's one of the things that you actually get to decide. This particular one, I don't know. I did go out and check out at least to make sure it is truly within the distance that I told you, which is about half an hour, and it is. Unless you go the way that I first tried today, in which case it's an hour. If you go down if you take a path that will still get you there, but you go down rock roads to get there, it takes longer. On pavement, it's a half hour away, about 35 minutes.
Half mile of pavement.
There's plenty of pavement to get to this, and then at the end, the only part that's all rock. It's right almost on the dot, a half mile west of the intersection of Sherman Road and Cavalry Road.
Mhm.
Cavalry Road is Highway 82. So that's where you're going. Tomorrow morning. You'll be leaving courthouse at 9 o'clock. Which might seem amazingly good fortune to you, 3 lawyers. A clerk. These gentlemen, our 2 deputies have not yet seen a fence view, and it's high time they did, so they're coming along to and see what's actually involved. And usually what these are, even though sometimes there's some high emotion and there hasn't particularly, I would say, in this one, that's not happening. Sometimes in the past, there's been some pretty combative situations. The previous commissions have had a chance to see some pretty robust discussions between landowners. Even back when I first started doing these, when I first arrived, we were still continuing something that had been going on for a long time. A couple of different families that were doing fence view after fence view after fence view because they had a number of parcels that qualified and had difficulty getting along on the issue of who was going to be responsible for which portion of the fence. And what your job will be as fence viewers is to be basically to assign equal responsibility to the extent you can to maintain the fence. You'll make a determination, does there need to be any new maintenance? Does there need to be any new construction? That will be something you don't decide on site. You will see the information. The way we've structured it is the way I've always done these, and I think it works pretty well. Go out there, take a look, walk the fence to the extent you need to. And this one, I'm told by the landowner, you may be able to drive the entire way along, but you will probably want to get out and take a look at some of it once we get out there. And when you be there, it usually takes about an hour. I try and set that as kind of a maximum time because that's usually about what it takes. Each side of the 2 landowners, each side of that disagreement over the partition fence or its responsibility for maintenance will be given 15 minutes to explain what their position is. You'll have a chance to ask questions. And then when you're ready to go, which usually is about an hour out there on site, we'll go ahead and adjourn from that. And then at a subsequent public meeting is when you will announce what your decision is. You'll have an order that is actually filed with the Register of Deeds that determines maintenance responsibility on the partition fence. One of the things too that is a lot of times people don't understand, if they agree on how to do this, they are entitled to enter into an agreement themselves. If they can do that themselves, and that's what the law usually prefers, the parties agree to do this, then they themselves can sign off on basically a fence view order. It's not a fence view order, but an order themselves that then is equally enforceable for the future between those 2 parcels. And once you do this assignment, once you make that decision and order is entered, it's permanent, runs with the land, even when there's changes in ownership on either parcel. So more than you wanted to know about fence views, more than you wanted to know about previous fence views, more than the public probably thinks you know fence view. But an interesting process, and you have a chance to experience it again tomorrow morning. Hooray. All right, thank you.
I'll meet you there.
Okay. And the new attorney brings breakfast, right? That's the deal.
Sounds like a fine tradition to
We
me.
gotta get something for you out of this.
So we're meeting.
Yeah, spend your $4 however you like. Yeah, you gotta make it fun.
Where's the $4 come from?
It's actually from the landowners. When anybody bothers to plug it into the order.
Sometimes that happens in the last 5 of them that we kind of do.
We've got quite a few.
Just like that old statute that's on the books that I can close the office for a day for $5 and staff is readily volunteered to pay that any day after.
Okay, on that note.
After election, right?
Good evening, Commissioners, Russell Stuckey, Emergency Management and County Fire. I was listening to the commission meeting Monday and heard you talking about, oh, we don't have enough agenda items for the meeting tonight, so. I called Cindy and said, well, I can move mine up, I was supposed to be next week, and then I see that. Either I didn't click the right thing or the computer gremlins got it and my actual report didn't load in the minute tracks, but the run reports did, so. Anyway, I'll just, so as several of you have asked, up until today, it's been dry and everything, but we haven't had too many fires up until today, and we had two. We went and helped Fort Riley for a while, and then on my way up here, they got called out, one just north of Leonard, but it was just an acre or two, and I haven't heard what actually started that, but as you probably noticed, we haven't allowed burning for the last 3 days. And I imagine most of that is, it's been dry and predicted winds, but we didn't put it on first thing this morning because it wasn't supposed to be too windy, and then when the Fort Riley fire took off, we decided, well, we'll just go ahead and put on no burning. And so I would imagine it would be more than normal coming up, that we'll have more no burning days than days we allow burning, until we do get some moisture. Guess I'll get there.
Yeah, that contract took a lot.
Yeah. But anyway, we've been getting Jake, the deputy chief, trained and some experience. He's already had experience, but getting him on board, working with Brian, as you can see, we did all the different paperwork done on the University Park Fire Station. Will be on the agenda, I think 2 times next week.
I think we got it all done so that we can just do it on Thursday, but
Okay.
I'll double check that.
Bob, because originally Bob had something on Monday.
I'll check, I'll coordinate with Bob. Yeah.
So hopefully next week at the commission meeting, with what you signed tonight, Brian will be able to get everything else finished, and should have all the paperwork done next Thursday.
We may keep the thing on Monday, just because Bob's already got it on, that's a good idea.
So, been working on that, working on doing, helping K-State with traffic and game days. The clerk's office has asked us to help a little bit with the FEP and MRC, and Lori's been working on that and researching that, trying to make sure everything keeps up to date with the MRC and FEP out of the health department. I don't remember what else was on. We've had medical reserve for so we have from a year to date, we're up about every day it changes between new volunteers coming on and others leaving, but we're roughly about 10 up, I think, than what we were from a year ago. So moving in the right direction. Obviously, as we all know, there's some volunteers that are way more active than others. That varies. And as I mentioned before, especially when we've done the remote meetings, we're always looking for volunteers, especially in all the towns. We get volunteers from in the county and in the cities, and we're always looking for volunteer applicants. Riley's unique, where it's the only town in the county that is still maintaining its own volunteer fire department. So as most of you know, they are sitting right next to each other. So Riley has double coverage there, because we respond with them when they have something significant. If it's just a dumpster fire, a car fire, or something relatively minor, they handle it themselves. But any structure fire, we get thrown out at the same time and have a good working relationship. The firefighters at Ashland are enjoying their new station, getting used to actually having elbow room and being able to walk straight to the truck instead of shovel sideways. So that's been really nice. And since the commission has agreed to use ARPA funds on the University Park Station, that'll free up some funds where we're starting to kind of slowly shop around first, see what used trucks are out there and see what we can do on that to upgrade some of those earlier trucks. Then you can see on there our different run numbers for the month. Pretty normal, I think, as we talked there before. I think I'll be shocked if they don't start going up between now and the next time we get rain. Cross our fingers. And So, I don't know if the commission has any questions for me. I will email you the report that didn't get uploaded, whether that was my lack of clicking the right thing or the computer doing what I don't know. That's all I, oh, and so fire training starts in 11 minutes, so. Anybody goes back by Public Works, if you want to stop in the Public Works and watch the South County training, which starts at 7. Feel free to stop in and say hi to the guys and gals that are training. I think another partnerships that we have with Fort Riley, and they're bringing their car fire simulation problem out. And so we're going to simulate fighting car fires. Had one group of people simulate fighting a car fire, and then we're gonna have another group of people working on water evolutions where we put down our pull the tank or dump tank, dump the water and suck it out of the pumper and then simulate that we have a fire out in any area that we don't have fire hydrants, which is more often than not for us. The opposite, if you're in town, the city or Manhattan or Riley, 99 times out of 100, they have a hydrant. There are a couple areas in Manhattan where they actually don't have hydrants, and it's on their procedure to call us to come help them in town to haul water to them because they don't have water tenders, tankers that actually haul water. So we'll practice some of that, and we'll be doing that at Public Works. So as you drive by, you can stop in and say, hey, feel free. Unless you have any questions for me. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Get to play with water in the hot weather.
Right.
That'd be nice.
Well, like I said, don't hesitate to stop by and we'll cool you off.
Yeah, I bet you would. You want to go ahead and then, we're only a couple of minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners, Anna Person. I'm the Riley County Appraiser's Office. Just here to do a staff update for you. So personal property right now is we're still doing or updating those personal property accounts as we receive notifications of any kind of changes. And this happens throughout the year. This is very common. And additionally, they are assisting our real estate department in various processes, records and digital processes. And we're preparing for October's personal property evaluation update to the clerk's office, which will be submitted in the next weeks. On our ag use, we're reviewing properties due for their annual reinspection. We're processing those changes in the ag delineation maps that were sent out. And we're also reviewing those sales. On residential, we've had approximately 766 sales for 2024. That median sale price is now at about $249,750. Average sale price $278,815. Our sales ratios currently stands right at 94%. Our team is reviewing sales. We're still at that 86% complete with our annual review, and that's unchanged from last month. Because we put a pause on that, so we can really focus on getting some sales caught up. We have 3 residential small claims hearings related to the 2024 valuation. And we did have one of our new employees start, and we hope to have the other open position filled soon. We wrapped up interviews this week. I think we wrapped up interviews this week, and we're hopeful to have that position filled. I refrain from saying the other term. And so on our commercial side, our commercial team completed our land analysis. They're preparing for BOTA hearings. They're reviewing our sales, completing annual review, and they're finalizing our depreciation analysis. Also, they wrapped up 10 interviews. Those income and expense questionnaires that were sent out were received. The ones that were received were processed. And it's usually not a great response. Typically, we get about 6% back. And that's part of why when it comes to valuation time during informals, then when they come in and they appeal their value. At times they'll bring in income and expense information, so we really try to do what we can to get that information ahead of time, doesn't always. We don't get as much return on that. And the next slide is gonna show the commercial BOTA case update. As you saw in the tax rule correction, there was one that we did get the BOTA approval on that stipulation. And so as well, there's 3 more, and you can see the values that they had requested and the value where we ended up. And so what happens in these cases is we just have to look at the data and we have to make sure we have everything. We'll cross our T's, dot our I's, prepare for the case, and in some cases, you know, mobile home parks are challenging, they're unique properties. And that's what these 4 stipulations were, a slight adjustment to the cap rate and communicated, and we came to a settlement. Both parties were okay with, and so, we're happy to have these cases settled on those.
Those mobile home parks, do they own all trailers or? do they-
Not in every case, I don't remember in this one, sometimes they own some of them and other times they don't, it just depends on the
If
park.
they don't own, then the trailer owners have to.
The trailer owners will pay their taxes on the
Property
personal
taxes.
property homes themselves. And so this is just the real estate, for the park itself, so that would be like the offices. All of the pads where mobile homes are setting. All of it, yes, the land itself, and so this is where that value is at. And sometimes parks will own mobile homes, and that's gonna be a personal property. Separate from this, completely separate, yes. Yeah, this is only related to the real estate itself,
Separate, the ones that they own,
That's
they rent some and some
yes.
people own them, I didn't,
Yes.
I was just curious how that works.
Yeah, on mobile home parks, there's mobile homes change ownership a lot. Especially in these parks, and so there's a personal property rendition. So the park, if the park owns the mobile homes, they get that personal property rendition. They are the ones that pay the taxes for the mobile homes that is in their ownership. And then the individuals will get those individual renditions, and then they'll get their tax bills, obviously in December, and they'll pay the taxes on those. And so, ownership is as of January 1, on mobile homes. Just like on real estate, but the BOTA cases. These are all real estate, yeah, these are just the park itself, the real estate, yes. And so a few schedule changes are noted, but overall, I mean, we're in 2025. And so, like I said, as he's reviewing cases, preparing them, we're just making sure, I want our cases to be solid as we move forward, working with our attorney. Looking at everything, so we're doing the best we can to get these wrapped up as quickly as we can. In addition, just kind of wanted to share some things as it relates to legislative changes and personal property, kind of since that came up. Senate Bill 410, which went into effect July 1. What that did for personal property is it was to be more taxpayer friendly. In that once they've reported it to the appraiser's office, they have to come in and report that they own it. It'll stay on the tax roll until they come in and tell us they don't own it anymore. And so what has happened historically is we were required to have property owners come in and sign renditions every year. And that was the only way they avoided penalties. And so somebody could report it 1 year, and then that next year, when they failed to report, they were penalized, and the penalty was up to 50%. And so the new legislation reduced the max penalty for non-filed 12.5%. And it's, I think it's 2% per month up to 10% with a max of 12.5 for non-files. And so what this is doing is once they've reported it, we don't have to send them those renditions anymore. And so what our office is gonna do is just try to help property owners get used to this change. We're gonna mail renditions to everyone. Like we've done historically, along with a letter explaining the change. This is the last year you will get these renditions. And so they're not required to return them this year. There's not penalties for any of the property we already have listed. You know, as long as it's listed. All right, and so if there's any changes, we're gonna encourage them to let us know, hey, this has changed by the date and the deadline on there. But it really is intended to be more taxpayer friendly, the number of complaints we would get, because, well, I already told you I own that, why do I have to keep telling you, I own it every year? It was frustrating for property owners, so now really it puts it on them, like, once you report it, you're good. And so they still get their notice of values in May, relating to all their personal property, and if there's a penalty on there, which we're gonna point out in May when we send those notices out, if you see a penalty, it's because we don't have it recorded in our office that you own this, we found out you own it through other means, and so you need to come in and talk to us, and so it's really just to try to be taxpayer friendly, and that was the whole intent of that the change. And lastly, the last thing I kind of, well, it's not lastly, sorry. I have an invitation to speak at the AAUW, which is the American Association of University Women, in October. This talk will be at Meadowlark. I have put together a presentation to share during that, as well invited Vivian Piaio to join me. On commercial and agricultural use. Another piece of Senate Bill 410 was related to agritourism. And so there was a little bit of confusion where they thought that if it was a registered agritourism operation, everything was ag. And so we did some more digging into the way the statute actually reads. They have to have agricultural production. It can't just be a registered agritourism, which for Riley County that matters, because we do have some registered agritourism operators with no agricultural use. And so it was really important that we interpreted that statute and made sure we're gonna apply it correctly. And so, some of those agritourism properties with the agricultural use, they are gonna get ag on the land where those buildings were sitting before that were previously listed as. And so, those are the real kind of the big things I just wanted to make sure to share. We did get our mid-year ratio from the state compliance wise. On residential, we are right at that 94.7, which is right in line, kind of what I shared with you. Commercial, they only had 4 sales, and of those 4 sales, 3 of them they have considered valid, so we are appealing those. And hopefully, if successful with those appeals, we'll definitely be in a better shape with the ratio on commercial. Do you guys have any questions for me? Well, thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, well, that was the last item on this evening's agenda. I don't have anything else to add for tonight. Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn the October 3rd meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the October 3rd meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Good evening, remember 9 o'clock tomorrow. Meet you there, Greg.
I think I'm bringing donuts. That's my plan. Yeah, you should.
We really